We are 2 episodes away from the finale of The Bachelorette, and with so little time remaining to fit in what's normally 3 to 4 episodes worth of content, it's clear that this season is about to be blown up. So we're going to take a look at this latest preview for next week's episode and try to dissect what might be going down, specifically this mega fight with Greg, why this fight happens, and I think I have a good theory to dish out, and what the aftermath might entail. So let's not waste any more time. If you're new to the channel, we only have one rule for these videos. Please no posting blatant spoilers in the comments section unless it's something that's sleuthed out from the previews or from official sources like the cast and production. And if you want to watch the preview in full without interruption, I'll leave a link to that in the description below.
I came here to fall in love. And not just any kind of love, but the forever kind.
We're in the end game now, folks. And next week we're getting the last 3 hometown dates, including this one with Greg and Katie getting rained on again. I swear, some greater power keeps trying to warn them of what's to come, but they just ignore it and make out. So if you're unfamiliar, hometown dates, even in a bubble season, have 2 parts. A day portion where the contestant flips the dynamic and takes control of the date to introduce their hometown to the lead, then a night portion where Katie will meet all the family and friends who are able to quarantine and be there. An interesting thing to note, however, is this shot with Blake is not actually from his hometown date. Check out the nail polish right here, then cut back to this shot of Katie and Blake in hockey jerseys from last week's preview. Here, Katie has a French manicure instead. And this is Katie and Blake's actual hometown. So that must mean that here, we have a date from after that. Could be fantasy suite, could be beyond. We'll get to more nail polish investigative journalism later, but for now, let's continue on.
I have 3 great guys.
I know I'm falling in love with you. You make me the happiest I've ever been.
Katie is everything I've ever wanted.
Alright, and just back there we saw that same date with the nail polish and Blake. This is actually a shot we've seen before that they snuck into the Night 1 preview, but with Blake's face being covered as he was not yet on the show at this point. We also have Justin telling Katie he's falling in love with her, but note, he says he's falling and not in love, and that seems to be a storyline for his upcoming hometown, as we saw last week, and we'll see later. And of course, Greg is all teary-eyed, telling Katie during his hometown date that she makes him the happiest he's ever been. There's a narrative forming with Greg, and it all revolves around Greg's feelings and what Katie is communicating to him. And one of the major keys to what this narrative actually is gets said immediately in the next section. So let's take a look.
Saying I love you is something I have chosen to keep private. I don't want to tell one guy I love him until the very end. Now we're going into hometowns.
And stop. So I think this is possibly one of the most important parts of this preview. And it has nothing to do with any of the images flashed on screen, it's what Katie is saying. A perfect layup to what I believe could be the root cause of the blowout with Katie and Greg to come. Katie says, saying I love you is something I've chosen to keep private. I don't want to tell one guy I love him until the very end. Now, let's double back to the preview from last week and this little clip with Greg.
She hasn't told me she's falling in love with me yet.
Well, now we're getting somewhere. Greg is feeling insecure, and Katie is not wanting to tell anyone she's in love with them until the end, which is a very common thing for the lead to do on this show. At one point in this franchise, it was just a known fact that the lead would not be saying I love you until the very end. So as I see it, this is a major setup for the fallout to come and could be the root cause of all the Greg and Katie argument footage that we've seen teased so far. Now, we've also got more date footage to sift through here, one hometown, one not. Here with Justin, a hometown date, as the 2 are in front of a Welcome to Baltimore sign, which is where Justin is from. And what will the 2 be doing on their date? Well, apart from smooching here, it's hard to know. But if you go back to the mid-season preview and play the very beginning, I think we can get a clue. Don't pay attention to what's on the screen, just listen to the words spoken.
Petal by petal, layer by layer, this rose is blossoming. Something special is in the air.
Here, a poem is recited by Justin. Now, as far as I can remember, there's been no poetry date up to this point, but I suppose it could have been cut from the show. However, take a listen to this moment from when Katie was on the Vial Files podcast.
I can't recite like a popular poem, but I am poetic, which I will say you might see in upcoming episodes.
Interesting. Now add this to the mix. Baltimore is the resting place of famous poet Edgar Allan Poe, and the location of the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum. So perhaps this could be a connection as to how poetry might make its way into Justin's hometown date. Not to mention, Justin is a very artistic soul. As for the other date footage, here with Blake, this doesn't appear to be a hometown. For one, it's at night, and the night portion of the date is always reserved for the families. 2, take note of what they're wearing. It doesn't match up with Katie and Blake's hometown date ahead. So let's get to that footage, it's coming up next.
And meeting someone's family is huge.
I can see he is smitten.
And yup, here's Blake and Katie in very different outfits from this shot. So we know that this is not a hometown date. But the key here, once again, is actually the nail polish. Check it out. No red nail polish. But I also can't tell if there's a French manicure as well. Might be no nail polish at all. And this is so important because we now know 3 separate dates with Blake. The hometown date with hockey jerseys and meeting Blake's mom Emily and his sister, this date with Zozobra, and of course the hot tub date. And 3 dates at this point suggest that Blake is there at the end. Oh, and before we move on, the shot at the beginning with Katie talking about the importance of hometowns is actually from her one-on-one with Greg, where they ran out in the rain. She gave Greg a rose heading into hometowns on that date, thus why she's saying this. Moving on.
He was the first guy to kiss me.
Wow.
This is one of the most important days of my life.
Alright, pause. We've got more footage of Katie and Justin's hometown, which looks to be with his friends. And then, of course, we're meeting Greg's mom. And in this section right here, it's this shot that I want us to remember, but there's more that we're about to transition into that I want to see before we talk about all the emotion coming our way in Greg's hometown date.
I worry that his heart's gonna get hurt.
At the end of this, everybody gets hurt except one man.
I'm falling so hard for Katie.
And here we have more to add to the narrative of Greg being insecure and wanting validation, but Katie refusing to tell someone that she loves them until the end. We've got Greg's mom showing concern for her son's heart, and Greg saying he's falling hard for Katie. And in this shot, you might recognize Katie's outfit from a particularly intense moment at the end of the Night 1 season preview. Remember this?
I'm just like heartbroken.
Katie is wearing the same thing in this moment as she is while meeting Greg's mom, but something here has me questioning if this is really what it seems. Now yes, there could be a fallout at the end of Katie and Greg's hometown date that leads to an even bigger fallout in the days after with all the footage that we've seen teased in the past previews. That's possible, and I'm not saying it won't happen. But remember this shot of Greg? We can see Katie in the corner right here, and it appears as though they're watching something while Greg is crying. I'd wager with it being hometowns, it's some sort of video or photo or tribute involving Greg's late father. Thus the tears both here and in this shot here. So I do wonder if Katie saying I'm just like heartbroken is actually her reaction to hearing more details about Greg's father's passing. But either way, they're still setting up the Greg and Katie blowout ahead.
When I see them kissing, God, I'm sick to my stomach.
You need to man up and tell her you love her.
What if somebody else has already said it and she's said it back?
So added to the Greg insecurity storyline is the Blake not saying I love you storyline. Will he say it? Will he withhold it? This is a very typical thing that happens almost every hometowns. There was Ben last Bachelorette season, Peter on Hannah Brown season, Luke on JoJo season, the list goes on. But obviously, with what looks like 3 dates ahead for Blake, this is not something that's going to stop the two from going forward after their hometown date. But it seems like saying I love you is the big theme for next episode.
We haven't told each other we love each other. You know, there's still time. Still time. There's 2 weeks.
Alright, pausing here, and this is the exact same footage we got of Justin's hometown from last episode, but I'm only pausing because while they're talking about Justin not saying I love you, we did get an earlier shot where Justin tells Katie he's falling in love with her on this same date. And I know saying I'm falling in love and I love you are very different things on this show, but I wonder if this moment is Justin's attempt to sort of bridge the gap at the end of the date. I say this simply because this is at night and they're sitting on a bench, which is a very common thing to see at the end of a hometown date. They have their date portion, they meet the family, they then say their goodbyes on a bench or a couch or something privately after the date is over. We'll see. For now, let's transition into the big drama section ahead.
I don't know what she's thinking, but something isn't right.
If you're not ready for this, I feel like you just need to say goodbye.
Please, moment.
So here it comes, the Greg and Katie stuff. There's a lot to unpack here, and it's probably wiser to get more into that once the preview is done. But this shot with Tayshia saying, if you're not ready, I feel like you need to say goodbye, is very deliberately mixed in with this shot of Katie. And that's because of a particular storyline they're trying to sell in this preview, that Katie might be ending her own season. However, this shot with Tayshia more aligns with this one with Blake from earlier, based on the daylight and the location. So I'd say it's more likely that she's talking with him here, or maybe even Greg, than it is that she's talking with Katie.
You think you know, and then you don't.
I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Who cares about the rose or who's getting sent home this week? If it's not real, it's not real.
I honestly don't know if she'll recover if he doesn't propose.
Alright, there's a lot in this section. There's the bit with Greg saying if it's not real, it's not real. The shot of Katie's friend or family member saying I honestly don't know if she'll recover if he doesn't propose, which we deep dove into last week and I speculated means there's one man left at the end of the show. Head over to last week's preview breakdown if you want the details on that. And we also have this bit with Blake and Justin sitting around where Blake says, you think you know and then you don't. I wonder if this is them reacting to the news that Michael self-eliminated. Could also even be them reacting to the Greg and Katie argument stuff, depending on when that all goes down. But last thing to mention is this shot. Katie looking rather upset, and check out the nail polish. The French manicure is gone, the red nail polish is in. So this appears to be from around the same time as her dates with Blake in the hot tub and this messy date. It's also from around the same time that we cut to with the Tayshia and Katie fake out from earlier, here where Katie is looking concerned and teary-eyed as she's wearing the same sweater. So I'm wondering if this is real endgame stuff right here, and I'll throw out a speculation as to how that could tie into the finale when the preview is done.
I don't even know if I can do this. I'm so confused.
I'm losing you. I'm losing my mind here.
I just don't know what to believe in anymore.
Okay, we're almost at the end now. Here, there are a ton of shots with everyone looking concerned and confused, including a fake out with Katie saying, I'm losing you, I'm losing my mind, and it cuts to Blake. But we know that she's actually talking to Greg there, which we discussed last week and in the Night 1 season preview breakdown. It's all based on the location, which we're going to see more of right now.
I am done. I am done. I am done. This is
Katie, it's Caitlin. Do you want to talk to me?
There's the location I mentioned before, and it's connected to this shot with Greg. Now in past preview breakdowns I talked about the pole being from the same location, but if you want further proof, check out the lights here, the lights again with Greg, and the lights in this photo from the resort website for the Santa Ana Cafe. All connected, but let's finish this thing off.
I went through this whole time telling myself it'll be worth it, and all of a sudden it's like blowing up in my face.
So what do you want to happen?
I want someone to book my flight home.
And the preview ends on an ominous note. Katie saying she wants to book a flight home. And that's the hook they're laying out for us next week. Will Katie actually leave alone? Remember earlier they set it up with Tayshia saying if you're not ready you should say goodbye, and cutting to this shot of Katie. But I think it's all a partial fake out. I say partial because it's true Katie's season ended filming a week early. But I also believe there's a happy ending here. So let's throw out speculation on where things go from this point. To start off, the guys are going to react to Michael leaving, and nerves will rise as hometowns go from 4 to 3. All the hometown dates will then go down with their various storylines, but the primary one is going to be involving Greg. My theory is still that he wants more validation of love from Katie, and she won't say I love you to anyone until the end. Now here's where things get really muddy. Traditionally, we'd then have a rose ceremony, and Justin would probably be going home. Simply put, there's so much footage left of Greg and Blake, none of Justin after this hometown date. But who knows if we even get to a rose ceremony? It all depends on when the Greg and Katie argument happens. Now we do have this shot that implies there's a fantasy suite, and this shot, which we talked about before, which indicates 3 dates for Blake, hometowns with a French manicure, this date with neither the French manicure or the red nails, then all of a sudden, red nails. I'm not entirely sure of the timeline, but at some point we know there's a blowout with Greg and Katie, and we can officially pin these two together in the same location for this fight, thanks to the bloopers from last Monday's tell-all. Check out the footage. The cameraman slipping blooper happens to be from the footage we haven't seen yet, with Greg saying if it's not real from earlier. Check out their outfits here. Now, this is not really new stuff for us as we've sleuthed this out all season, but that's the first official confirmation where the two of them are in the same shot together. And this messy breakup or argument or whatever takes these two all over the resort. Here they are in Katie's room, Greg is in the same outfit walking down a hallway, Katie is exiting where the rooms are located to outside, Greg and Katie are both then spotted in the Santa Ana Cafe, which is here according to the resort map. There's a shot of Greg fleeing to the pool, which is located further down the resort here. Then there's more footage of Greg upset that we haven't seen before that takes place at night.
I'm so confused.
I'm losing you. I'm losing my mind here.
Can I leave?
We're in for a wild ride. But essentially, it would appear as though all of this leads to Katie saying, "Book my flight home." At least if the preview is to be believed. So, from this point, we're really just going to be speculating, trying to fill in the pieces for how things go after this Greg stuff. Now, however it all goes down, even if Katie decides to end her season, there's still footage left with Blake. Take a look at this shot from Katie's breakup with Greg. She still has the French manicure, meaning all of this, the Blake stuff, the shot with Katie, seems to happen after the Greg fight. So what if all of this is date footage where Blake is the only one left? Katie and Greg fight, the season nearly ends, and Blake comes to save the day. It's something that we've seen before, like in Redacted season, where he broke up with everyone and went after Cassie and convinced her to come back. They then had dates with just the two of them left and ended the season. Of course, if we get to this point, there will still be a question mark surrounding, will Blake propose? I mean, has he even said I love you yet? Is he ready? Which could be why we get this footage we talked about earlier in the preview. Blake then meets Katie's family, and Katie's family says if he doesn't propose, she won't recover, because of all the drama that had happened before and the fact that there's only one man left. By the way, is it me or does this shot with Blake from this latest preview match the setting where Katie's family member is located right here? Maybe this is from when Blake meets them. Anyways, things are tense, but in the end, Blake proposes. It'd be pretty depressing for all this to go down and for Blake to say, "Nah, I'm gonna go too, bye," and then the season just ends. And after all, Blake did say this.
I promise you that if it came down to the end and we connected the way that I think that we might, we would be engaged at the end of this.
So that's it for this preview breakdown for week 9. We're almost at the end, so let me know your thoughts and theories in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content. We've got another week of recaps and previews to look forward to, and of course, keep your eyes peeled for the Bachelor in Paradise preview breakdown coming out this week. So until then, Bachelor Fantake, out.
So what do you want to happen?
I want someone to book my flight home.